update on our dairy goats. Right now I'm over at the buck pen, and we have Winchester Perfection. We like to call him Thor. He is our senior buck. He was born in 2013. He's going to be in a show this weekend, so I'll update how we do. He did very well in the spring show in Little Rock, and he has a restricted leg in that show, meaning he's on his way to hopefully being a champion. He's an American Saanen, so American means that somewhere in his pedigree is an outlier of either a different type of goat, or an unknown pedigree, or an American Saanen who was bred in with purebred Saanen genetics. The doe that he's in with is also an American Saanen. Her name's Aline. She's a yearling, born last year, but has never been bred. And I want to look at her udder for a minute. Talk about a precocious udder. So she's not been bred, she hasn't had kids, and yet she has some milk coming in, especially on one side. The other side's drying up nicely. This is called a precocious udder. What it means is she ended up with some hormones, whether it was from trying to breed her or just being around heavy milkers, that has created her to start producing some milk. Now there's a couple thoughts there. A lot of people say go ahead and just let it dry up, don't use it. Others say go ahead and milk it and then get her bred and dry her up as you would a regular milker. I am trying to dry her up now, and I may end up using some today or tomorrow product, which is a product made for cows into keeping them from getting mastitis, and it's an infusion into the teat. And I'll do a video on that if indeed we do use that product. So every day I'm just checking her udder, not milking it, making sure that it's not hot or getting mastitis at this time. I'm going to go in the other pen so I can get better footage of the other two. So this is a purebred doe that we have. Her name is Exotic Eveready. She was born last year. We actually have one of her doelings, and I'll show you video of that. She's purebred Saanen, which means the ADGA has records of her lineage as far back as 70s. I'll have to look and see how far back hers go, but there's always been purebred Saanens in her line, only using purebred Saanens. So with her, we know that there's not been any outliers, is what they call them, of American Saanens, of unknown heritage. Okay, that doesn't mean that she's a better animal than an American Saanen. It just means that we have confirmation of her lineage being Saanen from as far back as the ADGA has records. She is a milking doe right now. She's not milking at her full capacity. I am working to dry her up, and I'll show you her udder. So I haven't milked her today. This is her udder. We'll do a video on just information about udders. I had the chance to go to a linear appraisal, which taught me a lot about what to look for on udders and what I'm seeing. And I highly suggest, if you have registered dairy goats, that you take them to a linear appraisal, or go yourself at least and learn, and then start linear appraising your goats. You don't have to have that many to do a linear appraisal on them, and it just allows us to get information for so that when you have additional kids, that you can go back and see if you're improving on your scores and body type. Right in front of her is our junior buckling. He is a purebred Saanen as well, so we will have purebred kids out of this pairing. And his name is Feely. He was born in April, and I think he's coming along nicely. He's a little narrow. I'm gonna get him to come towards me. Or, okay, oh goodness. And, well, Okay, that's close, sorry. Feely's very sweet. He was a bottle baby, so he is a sweetheart. But I think he's a little narrow up here in his the chest, or what they call the brisket. It's nice and level. I like that. You can see it from the side. Maybe he's not going to cooperate now. He's just going to want to play. He's also a little narrow through his body type. I'd like to see this be a little, maybe a little wider. And again, waiting to see him grow. And looking at his hip bones, we want to see some nice wide hip bones into his thurl and pin bones back here on his tail area. So we'll see what happens as he gets bigger, but looking forward to working with him and seeing what kind of kids that this produces. So we're going to go into the other area and talk about our other does that are going to be waiting to be bred. Okay, so I have 4 more does over here, and then I have one that's being bred before I pick her up this year, and she's a purebred Saanen at her farm now, and the breeder is graciously breeding her to another purebred buck, so that I will have hopefully that taken care of and have completely different lines than just using my purebred buck. Okay, so the first one is Regret. She was born in February. She's an American Saanen and will be bred to Winchester Perfection, the senior over there, when she gets large enough. So the rule of thumb I've heard is 70 pounds or 90 pounds or 70% of adult weight. Given those 3 types of information, I'm going to wait and see. I'm just going to let her go on as long as we can, watch her heat cycles, and then as she gets close to a year, we're going to go ahead and breed her as a yearling, probably December. In addition, the doeling over here was born in April. So I'm either going to skip breeding her this fall, winter, early spring, or wait very late and see if we can get a breeding out of her when she's, in March. So it's going to be a really late kidding. And so I'm not sure yet. I haven't decided. Or if she gets really large, if it just depends on her weight and size. And I feel like she can, she's grown enough in January, February to do so. I've also heard a minimum of 7 months old. But with Saanens, being they're so big and it does take them a little bit longer to age, they do grow better and have a lot more bone mass potential if you wait, even skipping that first year, especially if they're late spring babies. But there's a lot of controversy behind that. A lot of people say forget that. You need a working girl. You paid for her. You don't want to wait 2 years, because that's not productive from an economic standpoint. The doeling, the dry doe that's right here with the orange single stripe is her name is Elsa, and Elsa is a little bit skittish. She's an American doe and has been bred to Winchester Perfection, the American that we have. And so she's a couple months in and will be due late November. And that actually was kind of like an accident. I had him split because Feely was so small. And so to give him some companionship, I threw her in, thinking, well, if she gets bred, fine, but not really expecting it this early on. And there we go. So I'm excited about it because we'll have a late November kidding, and we can milk through the winter. She's really timid anyway, so if it's a buckling, I may just leave him on her. If it's a doeling, I'll pull it and then bottle feed the doeling so that it's tame. So for milk, if I can't milk her, I bought the Sable. The Sable is in milk. She doesn't look like it right now because I just milked her a few minutes ago. The Sable is a Saanen who's colored, and that's how the ADGA created Sables, because two Saanens would have a offspring that would come out with color of some kind. This is not the only color that they can be. They can be several different things. Even a white animal with a spot that's larger than a certain size. I don't know if that's a quarter or a $half, but whatever it is, you know, you would actually consider them Sables. So the interesting thing is now, if Sables breed together and they have a white progeny, you can't call them Saanens. You have to put them in experimental. So that's kind of crazy. So with the ADGA starting a new breed not too long ago called Sables, they've opened the books up to where you can breed into a purebred Sable. You can't do that with Saanen, but you can in Sables, so that they can start what they consider a purebred line. And to do that, you have to have 4 generations of Sable with Sable pairings all the way through the generations to get the purebred. So Ashmealy is a 3rd generation Sable. So breeding her to a 3rd generation or purebred Sable will produce purebred Sables. And that's what we're hoping to do, is find someone who has a 3rd or purebred buck and borrow it, because I only have her as my only Sable. So I'm not going to purchase a buck or one goat. But she is in milk, so the plan is she's giving rutted 1 gallon a day, and we'll utilize her milk all the way through to when the kids are born from Elsa, and then we'll determine if you know, we're going to go ahead and pull those kids. But we'll have milk with her, and she's producing quite a bit. She's got a narrow body type, and I just talked about that with Feely. She's actually extremely narrow, and that means I'm not talking about thin as in body condition. So her body condition being able to see her ribs and her hip bones, but and yeah, she's not quite as fat. In fact, my girls are actually over fat. This, you can see the back here. You do want to be able to see their hip bones, and this one you barely can. She's really big. So they're a little bit over conditioned, and that'll come off when I stop feeding them so much grain, and this winter when there's not as much to browse. And if I give them, you know, more of a mixed hay instead of alfalfa hay, so that'll all happen shortly, and it's very, very easy to get them to lose weight. It's very hard to get them to put weight on. So I am going to put some weight on her, especially when she's at the milking stand, but that's not going to change her narrow body. Here, we'll turn right there. You can see how narrow she is. So with her generation of kids, if we breed her to hopefully a very wide buckling, or buck, senior buck or junior buck, then we'll have a body type that's more desirable. She also has a really long neck, which I thought she was just really tall, but you can kind of see she's not necessarily tall up to her withers, a little bit, but really just a long, narrow neck. But we love her. She's extremely sweet, easy to milk, and been very happy with her addition. Plus, it's fun to see a color with all the white goats that we have to kind of come out and say, oh, look. But she's very sweet. So that wraps up our update. And then, of course, our Pyrenees, who watches the girls. He's great. He does try to get out quite a bit, and we have to be real careful with that, trying to keep him in with the girls so he doesn't run to different farms and check everybody out. But he's an amazing puppy. He's a little over a year old now. I think he turned a year in June. And just a wonderful dog. Thanks.